Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to talk about the biodegradable pots and how you can make your own. Making biodegradable pots out of cardboard, paper, and other natural materials can be a very quick, easy, and cheap way to utilize material that you already have in your home and convert it into a vessel to grow your plants in the winter so you can transplant them into the garden with a minimal amount of hassle, and the pot breaks down naturally over time and it helps to add carbon and biomass to your soil as well. So it can be quite advantageous in different ways. You can save money. You could buy biodegradable pots online. They make them out of plant material, cow manure, and other paper waste products, but many of us already have plenty of biodegradable materials like cardboard and paper around at home, like paper towel tubes, toilet paper tubes, especially with this pandemic. I'm sure some of you out there have quite a few of those. Alright, so let's get started and I will show you how to make these. Okay, so here is a toilet paper tube and I just need to cut this in half at this point, so let me show you how to do that now. Alright, so under this lid I have a razor blade C-clamped to a sawhorse, and this is the easiest and safest way I have found to cut these toilet paper tubes in half. That way you don't have to worry about them creasing in the middle or anything else. Alright, so this is super simple. I try to give it a nice even cut through the periphery of the tube, and it really doesn't have to be perfect. So now that we have the tube cut in half, now we just have to fold it in at the bottom like a cardboard box. So what we have to do is make 4 cuts at the base of this soon-to-be biodegradable pot. And I try to keep them as even as possible. And then what you do is you just fold them in, like so. And then on this last one that you fold in, you just tuck it in. You tuck the one corner of it into the first fold that you made, and then I just crease it up a little bit, and that is a biodegradable pot ready to go. These are pretty good for tomatoes and plants that aren't going to get too concerned with root bound. When I transplant my tomatoes out in the garden, I transplant them out when they're really small anyway, so I find this works out pretty well for me. The advantage with the biodegradable pots is that it lessens the stress on the plants when they get transplanted out into the garden, and it's a little bit less of a hassle too, and saves time to just, put the plants right in the ground rather than trying to mess around with taking them out of their pots and then disturbing the root system. You can also do the same with paper towel tubes. They are a little bit longer, but I find that you can generally get around 5 or 6 pots out of these. You can measure them out, or you can just eyeball it. I generally just eyeball it. If they're not all exactly the same size, that is totally okay. Now, if you need bigger potting vessels, I like to use oatmeal containers. I cut these in half as well, although it's not exactly in half because at the base of this we already have a bottom. So what I generally do here is I cut it about 2/3 of the way down, about here. That way for the top half I have enough extra space to fold in for the bottom. And for this base, what I do is I take a pencil or a knife, and so I make some holes in here so it can breathe and have good drainage. And then here, like I said, all you do is just make the 4 cuts, like so. So now you just fold them in like this. It's really just a macro version of what we did before. And then you just take that last flap and you fold it under like that. Now this gap in here is pretty big and soil can come right through. And so what I generally do here is I usually take small twigs and or some leaves or grass clippings, and I just put them in the bottom before I put in the actual soil so it doesn't fall out or anything like that. And that way you can still get airflow and drainage, and it doesn't start to ferment and rot at the base of your planting vessel. Alternatively, if you just have a flat piece of cardboard, you can also make that into a cardboard pot. You can just roll it up into a cylinder, like so, and then you fold in. It's not going to be very pretty, but you just fold in the top. And it probably doesn't have to be this deep or this long, but on the other end you would also just fold that in as well. If you're using like paper or something like that, this method might be a little bit more suited for that, but you can use it with cardboard as well. And in a pinch you can you can create a functional biodegradable pot. You might also be able to, I don't know if this would disrupt all this. I might try to get that down a little bit more. Here I might try to, let's see if we can do this. Fold that in. And there we go. Just pinch it real good down at the top. There we go. No tape, no glue. I know like cardboard boxes, some of them can have that waxy, shiny coating on it. Maybe it's up to you if you want to use that or not. I tend to shy away from that. But this is the non-shiny cardboard, so that should work just fine for me. And so there you go. I just wanted to mention a few pointers when we are applying these pots to the garden. Remember, you want to have the right size pot for the right plant for the right amount of time. Now the advantage with these biodegradable pots is that if you start tomato plants earlier on in the year and they begin to grow and they're getting close to outgrowing like a toilet paper tube pot that you made, you can just take that whole pot and put it in a larger pot. And that way the roots will be able to continue to grow out and expand beyond that initial cardboard lining, and they will be able to continue to grow and not get stunted as much as trying to keep them alive, and they end up getting, you know, leggy, and then you plant them out and they don't produce quite as well. So that is an advantage. That way when they're younger, you're not disturbing the root system as much, either if you're transplanting them into larger pots or even when it just comes time to planting them out in the garden, you're still not disrupting that root growth and development as much as you would just, you know, shaking them out of the pot and putting them in the ground. For me, I do, like I said, I transplant my tomato plants generally when they're really young, you know, 3 to 4 to 5 inches tall. So it generally doesn't take long. So I can use those small toilet paper tube pots, and I just put them out in the garden. I make sure they get the compost and the water, the sunlight that they need, and they do just fine. A lot of varieties of peppers can do quite well in this as well. Even though I do start the peppers earlier on in the year, I do have the option of putting them in larger pots, or if they don't grow as quickly, I generally find I don't have to worry about them outgrowing any of these pots. You just want to make sure you know what kind of peppers you're growing, what size they can get, and how long you have until you want to transplant them outdoors so that they don't get root bound or stunted in their growth in any way. The final point I want to make is that now is the time to start storing up on this cardboard and shaping them into pots in preparation for the springtime, for the planting. You know, on these cold winter evenings, if you have nothing else to do, that's something you can do. So now is absolutely the time to take advantage of that. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something from it. This has been a topic that I have really been wanting to talk about it for a while, and now I've gotten the opportunity to do that, and I wanted to make sure I got it out now rather than later so that we can start accumulating these materials and forming them into biodegradable pots to hopefully make your gardening experience easier, less costly, and hopefully just as effective, if not more. Alright, so that'll wrap it up. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.